Well, hi there. It's the 1st of June, 2022. It's really odd the way things come together. How you start writing about one thing or talking about one thing, and the next thing you know, you're thinking about something else that's related to it and might have even been a precedent to what you're trying to communicate. That's what happened here. We were talking about, the last post I put together for mSw.com. That led me into talking about, problems with solving problems. The post in mSw.com was about learning more from a way, at least a technology to start learning more from your successes so that all your lessons aren't the result of failures. And I started thinking about all the problems there are with problem solving, and I came up with what looks like a really short post, longer than my normal post, but shorter than the 1,000 words I'm used to writing about questions like these. But there's a lot packed in here, so perhaps we should talk about them. I mean, you start out by saying that there's really no shortage of of problems. They're everywhere, and we find them in almost everything that we try to accomplish. And certainly they're more daunting in when we're trying to accomplish big things. But if you look at the web, there's no problem with identifying problems. There are thousands and thousands of articles focused on that one subject. And if you believe what you read, then it's really simple. You analyze the problem, you describe it so somebody else can understand it. Hopefully you're able to look for a root cause, a basic cause, come up with a bunch of different solutions, hopefully some of which will work, find the most elegant solution, and then, implement it. And that'll go ahead and teach you something about the problem, and perhaps you'll be lucky enough to solve it the first time, or you may need to lather, rinse, repeat, and do the whole thing over again, and do the whole thing over again multiple times. But that's not the issue. At least you're doing something. And if you're doing something, you're learning, or you should be. And if you're learning, then you're moving down a path towards success, and that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. The one problem in all of that is not identifying the root cause of the problem or defining the root problem itself well enough so that you know what you're looking for. There's a great book that's out there that I highly recommend called The Question Before the Question, which really talks about the same kind of technology. Most of us stop short before we get to where we need to be. Most of us see something that's obvious, ask the obvious question, get the obvious answer, and find out, unfortunately, that we're no better off when we're done than when we started. Because most often there's another question, an underlying question that caused us to ask the first question. And problems are no different than that. There's rarely an opportunity to fix whatever is wrong by looking at the most obvious thing that's wrong. And Toyota figured this out a long time ago. It was Saiichi Ono, the genius behind Toyota's lean production. And what he did that was so interesting was he said, don't ask why once to find the initial cause of the question. Ask why 5 times. The first why is the obvious one. The second why is drilling down deeper. The third one, obviously, and the example I used to use all the time when I was doing seminars was, it was your responsibility if you were working on a Toyota mass production line for their automobiles to stop the line if there was a problem. If you saw something was wrong and you didn't stop the line, you were in a lot more trouble than if you saw something wrong and did stop it. So the example that I used with the trunk is misaligned. Okay, so you say, why'd you stop the line? The trunk is misaligned. Okay, why is the trunk misaligned? The trunk is misaligned because the hinges aren't aligned properly. Okay, why aren't the hinges aligned properly? And you see that you start to go deeper and deeper down that rabbit hole, but ultimately you're going to get to the main reason that the hood's misaligned, and you're going to fix it. And if you fix it early enough in the process, you aren't going to build 100,000 Toyotas with misaligned trunks or misaligned hoods. So it's a responsibility that you have to the truth of what's wrong. And to being neurotic, frankly, about making sure that it's right. I don't think that makes you a perfectionist, but it sure gets you closer than you would otherwise. And that isn't a bad thing. The other things that are important to recognize is when you analyze the question, the problem that you're having, you really need to know how that problem manifests itself in the world. I mean, who it impacts and how it's impacting whatever it is that you're doing. Why is it a problem at all? And the only way you're going to be able to do that intelligently is to describe it well enough for someone else to see it for what it really is. And then the important thing is to figure out who owns the problem. And I see this a lot. And it's the failure to recognize that you can't fix somebody else's problem, that you are responsible for ensuring that your problems are solved, but you can't walk in and fix somebody else's problem, especially if you don't have their cooperation. So that's another thing that's a problem with problem solving. Is it the only way to be able to describe the problem well enough? Once you figure out who owns it? I don't know. That's going to be something that you're going to have to work on in your own life. Is it you? If it's not, if you're not the one who owns the problem, don't try and solve it. You're just wasting your time. You got to help them, mentor, coach, help them to figure out how they can solve it. Nobody is going to remove somebody else's obstacles. I've never seen it happen. They may be your obstacles to remove, and you may not realize that, but it's worth some extra thought. So exercising the 5 whys helps. Understanding who owns the problem helps. There are 2 other questions that are really kind of critical here in order to solve that problem that you're having, and that is what does the desired result outlook? What happens after you've solved the problem? What does that look like? And the other question is, what happens if we're not successful? What happens if we can't solve it? If we don't? And that leads to a whole different discussion. Finally, if we're committed to a solution, we need to identify the resources necessary, and that's important. Do we need more training? Do we need more equipment? Do we need more tools? Do we need technology? Do we need different people? Do you need additional people? And if you need additional people, do they need different strengths? I had a very, very wise person, one of my early mentors, tell me that you hire your weaknesses. You surround yourself with people that are good at what you're not good at. You don't have to surround yourself with people that are good at what you're good at. You're already good at it. What you have to do is you have to find people that can do what you find difficult to do, or unpleasant, or distasteful. Einstein was credited with saying that problems can't be solved with the same level of understanding that created them. That's something to remember when you're looking for solutions and you're looking to solve problems. The good news is that you're not going to run out of time. You're not going to run out of time because nobody's going to rush to your aid and solve these problems for you. So the only question that remains is whether or not it's going to be you. Hope you enjoy this. If you got any other suggestions for things that you'd like to have us deal with in a conversation, I'd love to hear from you. In the meantime, stay well. Take care. Stay away from COVID. God knows we're starting to see it ramp up again out here on the left coast, and I know it's already back east. So we've got half of my family's down with it, and it's hard isolating from the people that you care most about. It's precious time that's stolen. On that happy note, I'll leave you with that. Stay well, take care. Hope to talk to you again really soon.